because I've wanted to talk to you for like 3 years.
Excellent.
At least. So appreciate you doing this. Gerry Forbes is our guest. Gerry, for people that don't know who Gerry is a broadcast institution. Gerry is the reason that I got into radio. Gerry was the morning guy at CJ92 when I was at the University of Calgary. And I would listen to you, Gerry, every single morning in my 10-year-old Toyota Celica. And I would drive down to the U of C, and I would park on the ramp underneath Jack Simpson Gymnasium and get towed almost every day. But I would never the reason why I was always late for volleyball practice, I would never get out of my car because I would sit and listen to you and whoever it was you had with you at the time. And you made me fall in love with the business.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. You know what? That was, you don't think about it when you're doing it, that you may affect somebody that way. But we just wanted to have fun. And I wanted to do stuff that nobody else had done. And of course, you're always going to get, when you're in radio, you're always going to get you're the Howard Stern Canadian version of that. I'm sure you've got that a million friggin' times.
Yeah.
And I never even listened to Howard Stern. I just learned how to do it on my own through listening to my father and to my brothers, who are both great radio guys. And just plowed my own course into having some fun. Learned a lot, actually. I started off, I had to do a switch. I hate the word pivot now because I've heard it 9,000 times. But I had to switch from top 40 guy. Mm-hmm. So I was top 40 guy on AM radio back at Chum and CFTR in Toronto, back when it was like boss jock stuff. So I had to learn how to make things work into 7.5 seconds or 30 seconds on an intro. And that was what radio was back then, trying to sound cool over the intro of a record. And then I had to trash all that because that was going the way of, the dodo bird. It was going. So I thought I have to learn how to do this talking shit. And I spun 360 and then went back 180, and I finally figured out how to do it. And by the time I hit CJ, I think I was in my prime.
Mm-hmm. Which was, how old were you when you went to CJ? Because when I went to university, I was obviously 18. And that would have been 1992. So which I think you weren't there that long. I think you got there in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. If I'm not
91.
mistaken.
I got there in 1991. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, it's early 40s, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Early 40s. Landing Calgary, you spent like a few years kind of bouncing around. And what I found interesting is you bounced around Hamilton, Toronto, and then you went and worked at fucking IBM.
Yeah, I was. I had a scholarship to go to IBM. I had a scholarship to go to school from IBM, and I didn't take it. And I got into radio, and I thought, holy shit, this it's a lot of fun, but I got to eat my own ass for dinner because I had no money, right? So I thought, I as much as I love it, I got to eat. Mm-hmm. Sound like a football player. So I just thought I got to get a real job. So I went to IBM, and I went, you know what? I'm probably better off not eating because IBM was fucking horrible. And I went back to radio, but started at CHNL out in Kamloops when I was 17. And it was like me, the Indian band, and a couple of drunks. That was basically it. For fun, I went curling. I don't like curling. There was nothing to do. So I went there for 8 months, lied about knowing how to operate a board, lied about having a whole bunch of experience in radio, and sat down, and I got off the plane, and this guy named Al, who was doing the all-night show, said, okay, so you're on tonight. And I go, well, you better show me what to do, because I had no friggin' idea. I'd never seen a board. So I go, how does this shit work? So he goes, like, you do this, you do that. And I go, so I wrote it all down. Yeah. And I learned to work the board the first night I was on the radio. I had no training. And I just learned, right? So I said, okay, I'm good now. After the first month, it was horrendous. But I got to get the hell out of here because I can't stand Kamloops. So I thought, okay, I'll start firing out tapes everywhere. So I sent probably 100 out, probably heard back from 30 guys, still got a lot of work to do, yada, yada, yada. I kept all those letters to see who I'd see down the road. And after 8 months, I got hired at Cham in Hamilton and flew into Hamilton and set up there working at Cham. And that was my first kick at the cat, really.
That was like your first kind of, and I don't want to shit on people that have done radio or do radio in Kamloops or small towns, but if you've worked in major centers like you have, obviously,
Yeah.
it's a fucking huge difference, right? You know, it's a major
Well,
difference.
thank God they had growing pains with me because my father opened the door for me, and sort of my brother Marty. So they sort of felt like, okay, this guy probably has some talent, but we're sure gonna have to dig deep to find it.
Mhm.
So I just kept plugging through. I did get better, good enough to get a look at Hamilton. And then when I got to Hamilton, I sort of figured out what I was doing. I was working with some great broadcasters there. And then again, I always had to drive. My whole thing that I ever wanted to do was do mornings at Chum, because I grew up listening to Chum.
Mhm.
So I thought, that's what I want to do. That's my goal. So I stayed at Hamilton for a couple of years, and then I got a call from Les Soul, who was running
He
680
just passed away about
CFTR.
a year and a half ago, I think, in a
Yeah,
car
died in a
accident. Yeah.
car accident in Mexico.
What a great
Terrible.
guy. Yeah.
Funny guy, really funny guy.
One of the
So he
smartest
called
cats
me,
you'll
and
ever meet. Yeah.
I thought it was my buddy screwing with me, so I told him to fuck off, and I hung the phone up on him. And then he called back, and I go, "Okay, I get it, guys. It's funny." So he goes, "I'm serious. It's Les Soul." I go, "That's bullshit." I said, "Chuck Cameron's the PD. I looked it up. So you're full of shit." He goes, "Well, just do me a favor. Call back to the radio station. Here's the phone number." Went through, and they go, "Can I speak to Les Soul?" Expecting to hear nothing. And they go, "Yeah, I'll put you right through." And I'm like, "Oh, just told the guy to fuck off before he hired me, right?" So I call Les, and he goes, "Okay, now you got that off your chest. Come on down, and we'll have a chat." So drove down to CFTR, and he goes, "Would you be interested in it?" Yep. I just said yep before he didn't care what it was. So I ended up doing all nights on TR with a great lineup. Mike Cooper was there, Mike Marshall.
Mike Cooper from Easy Rock, like Mike and Aaron. Mike Cooper.
That's right. Yeah. Mike
Wow.
was a huge disc jockey on Chum before me. He
Mhm.
was a guy who had himself shot and killed on the air. It's still up on YouTube if you want to check it out. On April Fool's Day, had himself murdered and had the entire police force. He had ambulance. He had everything. It was the real deal. He had a guy come in with a gun and allegedly shoot him, and went dead air, and it caused a shitstorm.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think it's still up on YouTube.
Do you know how much shit people
Oh,
would get in if they
you
did that
get
today,
locked
Gerry?
up. Yeah, you get
Yeah.
locked up. So I was
Yeah.
working with guys like that,
That's awesome.
Bobby Day, like so many great guys. So I learned Dan Williamson, Bill Hayes. So I learned the craft really quickly there, and I had to learn to talk like that because it was still boss jock stuff, and it was
Right. Yeah.
So
You're
I
the
did.
best.
I learned how to lower the voice about 4 octaves and sound really, really good
Yeah.
talking about nothing, right?
Yeah.
So
As long as your bass and your voice and your compression was good and you could put a sentence together, this is what
Yeah.
people don't know about radio. If they could make you sound like you knew what you were doing,
right,
you could kind of piece together 30 seconds worth of conversation, you'd have a job for fucking ever.
oh, I nailed the over the record shit. I'm really good at it, but I had a hero there, Red Knight, who was like his real name's Peter Thompson.
Yep.
And I listened to that guy like you listen to me every single day, and learned how to put together a personality that you had to get over 7.5 or 14 seconds, right? And and managed to do good enough that they moved me from all nights to mornings on weekends, and then from mornings on weekends to 6 to 9, and then 6 to 9 from noon to 3. So I did that in a really quick time. And then Les went over and started a new radio station called Metro 1430, which was sort of a precursor to like a CFRB, but it was more of a variety station where they'd have like Jim Brady did mornings, and Jim didn't really want to work that hard anymore. So Jim never showed up for work. So that's how I learned how to do mornings, because I filled in for Jim. He'd say like, "It snowed last night," and I'd go like, "Jim, it's a fucking inch of snow. Yeah, make it out." So then I'd go and do the morning show, and that's how I learned to do it. So I got good there. And then I got a call from Chum, and I had an idea for Chum. There was no internet then, so I said it was really hard to break the lineup there because everybody was American, and I would have been one of only 2 Canadians on the radio. So it was very, very tough. They had guys like Terry Steele, like these huge, big ballsy guys from Virginia and California, and so I had to go in there and try and compete. And they wouldn't put me on the air, first of all. So I came up with an idea to put together basically what would be the internet now. I would go to every bookstore, every newspaper that I could find, and had them all sent to my house from every newspaper in Canada, all the entertainment stuff that came out of the States. And I would put together an information sheet, which would now be the internet. And I would send it out to all the radio stations in the Chum group. And when the guy came in the morning to do the morning show, they would have this whole information sheet on what to do, what
like
to
a
talk
prep
about.
sheet. Like
Yeah.
you became, so instead they weren't letting you on the air. So
No.
you decided, listen, if I'm going to fucking be here, I might as well do something.
Right. So they
I'm-
just said no other radio station had a prep sheet like that. They had jokes and shit, but they didn't have all the information of anything that was going on that day. So J. Robert Wood, who was the PD there, said, "This is genius. This is fantastic." And then I finally just kept saying, "Why don't you give me a shot at going on the air?" And he said, "You're not good enough." And I said, "Okay." So one night somebody didn't show up, and I got a shot and started doing the all night show. And then I did the all night show for, boy, I guess 6 months.
Mhm.
And one day Roger Ashby was driving in and he heard me and he went, "I've never listened to this kid before. He's good." Took me into J. Robert Wood's office, sat down and said, "The guy's good. Have a listen." And they gave me a shot. So I went from midnights to 6 to 9, 6 to 9. And then it killed me to replace my hero, Terry Steele.
Mhm.
They're getting rid of him and they put me in his shift and I did noon to 3. And then they brought in an older guy to do the morning show, Don Percy, who's also a broadcast legend.
Mhm.
And I wasn't trying to be mean, but when you're in radio, you want the morning show job. So I kept working my ass off, and then I beat him out for the morning show.
And how old were you at that point?
23.
23. See, people fucking, if you're in radio, or if you had an inkling to do it, I think growing up in the business, which I did and you did as well,
Yeah.
Toronto was the place, right?
Oh.
Like if you could get to Toronto, anywhere in Toronto, to do radio, to do a show, you fucking made it. Like it was, if you've lived anywhere, done radio across this country, grew up knowing that this was the medium it was when it was as influential as it was. If someone said, "Oh, he got a gig in Toronto," you were fucking livid at that guy or girl for getting a gig in Toronto, because it's Mecca, right? It wasn't, and you're doing it at 23.
Opt 24 hours a day. You didn't have to touch a board.
Yeah.
You just went in there. You were treated like God. When we had meetings, everything would be catered. Sometimes they'd send limousines to pick you up. We had one where they brought in a new program director. This one was at CFTR, and it was Reg Johns, who's also a radio legend. Came in with a marching band, cheerleaders, and then just came in and started throwing money. $1,000 bills, $100 bills, $50 bills. He just said, "Keep it fun in the halls and tight on the air." And we all scooped up the cash and went and got smashed at one of the bars there. That was radio then, right?
Yeah, it was. It was. Well, it still is, I think, to some extent, but it's not like, it's not like it is now. And now that you're retired, Gerry Forbes is our guest, legendary morning guy, Canadian Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame member, numerous awards for just doing the right thing and helping people out with charity. I could go over the list, but we'd be here a while.
Surprisingly, too, not one arrest.
No. Yeah, that's incredible when you think about it, right? Especially when you think about those days in radio, because when I got into radio, it was like, I was 20 years ago. And I would, it was kind of the crossover time when I got in with some of the guys that were, a little bit older than me, that had some time, legends in the business. And when I came to Toronto, I'd go and hang out with guys like Roger or Rick or different people in radio that you have known and you have met, that are from that era, and the stories they would fucking tell about starting to drink after their show on a Friday, waking up in LA on a Sunday and having no idea how they fucking got there. Like the culture in this industry back when it was what it was, which is one of only 3 ways you get your information, right? You get it from television, you get it from print, you get it from radio. There was nothing else. You guys were super fucking stars.
We had this is a true story, and it probably shouldn't be told, but I'm telling it anyway. We had a chum hooker. We had a girl named Robin. And we had a guy working there who was connected. And he could get anything you wanted. This guy was super connected, Italian, big surprise. And he hired, we had a professional girl that would look after any special parties and stuff. We had limousines. I mean, you name it, we had it.
So hold on, when you say hooker, she was a prostitute that was on retainer for the staff at Chum. Is that correct? Or it was just
for any, just for the cool guys, the cool cats. There were
okay.
some real hardcore radio guys that would go home and study the top 30 records, and then there were idiots like us that were there for the fun. And we had this girl. If we had a party, we wanted to make sure it was a good party. We'd dial up Robin, go over to her place, and sweep some of the crack off the front of the stove, and take her dishes out of the aquarium, clean up her condo for her, and then take her out to the party. She was called Robin and the Silver Bullet. I'm sure you can figure that one out.
Yeah, probably can. You see, and we can sit here and laugh about these jokes or these stories because we've lived that lifestyle, and I think a lot of people don't. When they think about radio or they think about that time and the time that we're in now, where everybody really enjoys just being pissed off about everything or finding reasons to hate someone. Those stories to me are fucking fantastic. That's what the lifeblood of that industry was and is, right? Like if I could sit here and tell you stories about, threesomes in bathrooms at Sound Academy during a concert, or waking up in someone else's, I've woken up in London, England in a bed with a Kit Kat smeared into the duvet and three women kind of dispersed around.
Yeah, they're all true.
Yeah, and people go, nah, that's not true. But that was the culture. That is what we did. It's not just music. It's about the lifestyle. It was about ego. It was about money. But more importantly, it was about the experience.
We got sent down to Detroit. Gary Slate sent us down on a listening trip, and I would listen to riff, and okay, I get it. I know what they're doing. Let's go to the strip joint. So we'd go out, and we went to the strip joint, and I had a friend that looked like Captain Kangaroo, and I could use that guy anywhere because Captain Kangaroo is a big deal then. So I'd take him to the strip joints, and of course they'd say Captain Kangaroo's here with us. I'm like, boom, we're in. And full disclosure, I've told my wife all these stories, so we're good.
That's good. So I was always uncomfortable when you're in the middle of one of these.
That's right.
And a spouse walks in and goes, "Tell me more about the Chum hooker."
Oh, she knows them all. So then we meet these two girls, the Detroit Wild Child and this other one named Brandy. And they said, "What do you do?" "I'm a radio guy." "What do you do?" "We're down here on a listening trip." And she goes like, "Where are you from?" "Toronto." "Oh, I love Toronto. I want to go to Toronto." I said, "Well, I can fix that up." I said, "There's a train that goes from Detroit to Toronto." And I said, "Who's your favorite rock star?" And she goes, "Billy Idol." I go, "You know what? I know Billy Idol." Of course, I didn't know Billy Idol, but I knew Billy Idol was coming. So I said, "Well, why don't we bring you up on the train, and I'll put you up in a hotel, and we'll get you to meet Billy Idol." So, and these girls were smoke shows. So we bring them up, pick them up at the train. I put them up at the Delta over in Scarborough, and picked them up and had the weekend that every man would ever dream of, because the deal was, I get anything I want, you get Billy Idol. So there was no boundaries. So it was everything you've ever seen in any movie. And these girls were having a great time. And so sure enough, I meet the record rep, who was a great guy, and I take him in to meet Billy Idol. And Billy Idol's like, whoa, like a gift from God. Thank you. I don't even have to go anywhere. They go back to the dressing room. They meet Billy Idol. And I say, "Girls, have fun. Let me know where you're going to be tomorrow. I'll pick you up and I'll get you back to the train." So strangely enough, I run into Stu Myers 25 years after, and he goes like, "I got to tell you the story about Billy Idol." I go, "Why? What happened?" "Well, I'm going with the record rep, and we're going to see Billy at the hotel." And we open the door, and Billy goes, "Hang on a sec," and he's got two girls in bed with him. And I go, "Yeah." And Billy goes, "Well, that's great, bitches. Till next time, we'll see you." And that was it. And I go, "Guess who got on the two girls?" And this is 20 years later. And it was those same two girls that Billy Idol had in the hotel room that Stu 20 years later, found out the story that was the weekend that I brought him up from Detroit.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. I mean, stories like that, they're just legendary, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, it's, do you get together with like other radio guys from time to time? If you don't follow Gerry on Twitter, you should. At Flapjack92 is his handle. And it is one of two things that I get from your Twitter feed. It is how much you love your wife and your dog. And also, it's a daily occurrence for you and Red Dog to be in a pub somewhere hoisting a pint to a camera.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine. He worked with me for a lot of years, and we've stayed best buddies. He tracked me down in Edmonton. He was just a club disc jockey guy.
Yeah.
And I found out how funny he was. And he didn't have the greatest voice, but I go, that doesn't matter anymore. I said, don't worry about that. I said, if you're funny and you're engaging, and he's like a 6'5".
I met him.
Yeah,
I met him when I was so my first real radio gig.
McMurray or something, right? And
yeah,
it was Toronto for something.
Yeah. I was in Fort McMurray, and he was up there at Cowboys doing something.
Yeah, that's right. He said to say hi to you, by the way.
Yeah, well, please say hi to him too.
Yeah.
Him and another guy who ran the place. He had long hair and he was mean as fuck, but goddamn it, was he funny? I cannot remember the guy's name. He had long curly hair.
Yeah.
And he was buddies with Paul Vickers. Paul sent him up there to set the whole thing up.
Right.
But Red Dog would come up there on weekends, and we would get famously annihilated. And I remember the very last time I saw him, I was getting my head shaved, and I was just fucking wasted. It was like for a charity thing, and he was standing there, and I looked ridiculous, and he looked at me, and he grabbed me, and he kissed me on the top of the head, and he goes, "Buddy, you look like a fucking loser."
It's funny. I think, because I studied your career too, I think our careers sort of mirrored each other. We've done a lot of the same sort of things where didn't take no for an answer, went ahead and did what we wanted to do. And I think that was the key to success. That's why I feel bad for the guys nowadays, because you can't. When you're run by a telephone company or a cable company and you're number 16299, they don't give a shit. They don't know about your talent. They don't know what you're worth. They know that position pays 120, and if you go at 125, you have a chance of getting blown out. And you can't do the stuff. You can't take the chances that you and I took.
Yeah,
and that's really made it hard on young guys like Jesse Maud's, big fan of yours, and JD, both super talented guys, but they'll never get a chance to do the stuff that you and I did because it was so outrageous.
Why is that? What has changed? Because if you type in Gerry Forbes CBSC or Dean Blundell CBSC, I counted over 400 complaints this morning, and I actually have one of your CBSC complaints here, and it's very fucking funny, and I'm going to read it coming up in a minute.
Okay.
But it felt like
media.
What's that?
Social media, Dean. Social media has squeezed the life out of anything, because no matter what you say, there's going to be Bobby out in Etobicoke that was offended. Bobby's dad's a lawyer. Bobby's going to sue the radio station and sue you. And now, like back in the day, I had Gary Slate to defend me. He'd just say, no, the guy did it. Go fuck yourself, right? And for a little while, they let me answer my own emails. That was a big error. Because as Stu said, when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he goes, my introduction to Gerry, I'd been there a week. Some listener had complained about something that Gerry had said. I got that quite often. And Gerry just sent back, suck my dick. And that's what I would do. I'd go like, get a fucking life, fuck off, right? Be just a 2-line memo back to the guy at his company. And Stu would take those and Stu would defend me.
Yeah. I used to do that too. It was funny because before social media, and it was like 2001 when I started at The Edge, and you knew you had to all the fucking cliche radio words, right? You got to super serve your demographic. These are your clients. You got to make sure that you're catering to them. You can't be mean to them or rude to them. But the only way they could get to us was via email or phone. Right. And I didn't answer the fucking phone or text. Yeah, but we didn't even have that. I wouldn't have the text thing in the studio. I'm like, that's fucking ridiculous. Why would I want someone's input in what I'm doing?
Right.
And I remember getting emails and simply sending back, and this happened for probably 10 years. Go fuck yourself. Because
I love doing it.
Just go fuck yourself, because I don't care about what you think about what I just did. I'm not doing that for you. And the interesting part, you talk about the way radio, managers would defend talent back in the day if you were offside or if you did something that they didn't like or someone complained. And, you know, the incredible part and still is, and I was reading these CBSC complaints because our employers would send back these letters to people, right? They would send letters back to the person, the complainant, the individual saying, hey, we got your complaint. I totally understand. However, we don't believe our guy was offside. Here's why. And if you have a problem with that, you can escalate that and you can send in another complaint and then someone else will deal with this that isn't us. And
Right.
and until it was probably a good decade of me telling people to go fuck themselves, that it appeared in a CBSC complaint. It was like, I complained. Dean told me to go fuck myself. And I meant it too, right? Like,
yeah, I know. I mean, when it got down to texting, I had some plumber who hated my guts. No, electrician. And he hated my guts. And every day he would send shit in. He'd complain. He'd write things to the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council. And then once it came down to him attacking my wife, saying something about my wife. So I said, fuck that. I got on the air and I said, don't go to Bob, the electrician. Here's what he said about my wife. This guy's a complete asshole. He'll probably burn your fucking house down. Mm-hmm. So then I get a call from the guy that owns the general manager gets a call from the guy that owns the electrician company, come running down to the hall to me and they go, you can't do that. I said, he can't tell my wife to do this or do that. And I go, when the guy starts attacking my family, I'm putting the name on the air where this fucking idiot works. And if I have to, I'll fucking go to his work and just do what he did to me so he can go fuck himself and you can go fuck yourself. So you go deal with that. So they had to deal with that. That guy got fired. I said, fire that guy and we'll be even. How does that sound? So they blew him out and I had a celebration party for the guy that got blown out. I had strippers and cake and everything. We had a fantastic, and it was all because Pete, whatever, it wasn't Pete, it was whatever, Larry or whatever, who got fired. And I said, this is a fucking great day because I just did to what those assholes did to me.
Yeah.
It was, that's there was a little extreme.
No, it's not. You know what? I love the end run, Jer. I fucking love it. Schadenfreude is the greatest thing in the world. I've had several, and only one comes to mind, the specific example and here, listen, if you're going to send in a complaint to a personality or a radio person, don't do it from a fucking work email address, for Christ's sake, right? No. Like that's how I found out who this guy was. And so what I did was went and looked up his work, went and looked up his bosses, copied them on this email, said, hey, just want you to know, this guy is using company email to say some pretty nasty shit to me for no reason at all. It's unsolicited. All we're trying to do here is this cute little radio show. And I got an email back from them saying, thanks, we appreciate it. We're going to fire him. And about 3 days later, I get another email, but this time from this guy to my dean@edge.ca site. And he's like, fuck you. I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you. And thanks. And then about 3 days later, I got another email that goes, hey, man, I'm sorry I sent that to you. Because what I did with that email is I sent it to the cops, who then followed up with him.
And so you're as crazy as I am. It's great. I'm not going to take that shit. You know what?
But that's you know what, Gerry, and that's the thing is that we would sit there back in the day, and it's different now, and the sensitivities are different. We would sit there and put the best of ourselves on the air because we were asked to do this job. And you can have an issue with it, but the easiest fucking thing in the world for me was to tell those people to go fuck themselves, or just fucking turn that knob one click.
That's what I would say. You don't like it, fuck off. Right. Yeah. But you know what? Much to our credit, we didn't put up with that shit. And we went and we taught that guy how it feels to be doing a radio show and getting input from shitheads that you don't want to hear back from. Now exacerbate that a million times with social media and one idiot that says something and then the piling on starts. I feel bad for radio and TV personalities, right?
So let me ask you something. You retired, what, 2 years ago now? Are you 2 years out?
3.
You're 3 years out. 23 years at CJ. 25 years
25,
at CJ?
Yeah.
43 years in broadcasting. You started when you were 17.
Yeah.
Would you be able to today go in with the culture and social media, right fighters, the left, the right? Would you be able to go in there and wheel a show like you would want to be able to wheel if you could? Like if you still had the desire to do it?
It would be a one-day show, but absolutely. Because it would be like Bill Burr hosting a radio show. Because I love Bill Burr. I think that guy should be the fucking president and the prime minister. And just tell people to calm the fuck down and shut up, right?
Yeah.
Just have a little chuckle at yourself. People have lost their minds. The problem is this is what now you realize when you're out there walking around that 80% of those people are fucking cracked. They're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're unhappy and they have nothing better to do.
And they want you to be unhappy too.
Absolutely. And let's see if we can't destroy this guy's life. Let's see if we can't, they can argue about anything, the color of the fucking sky, and they'll go on for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
So that's the problem now. So every idiot has a way to get to you. And I think social media is just turned, what was supposed to be, how's that Gladys doing now? She moved to Ireland to check in on her on Facebook, has now turned into, you feed your dog that kind of dog food, you know it's in that fucking shit. Just
they come after you for your dog? They come after you for your dog too?
I can put a picture of my fucking dog up and there's going to be a problem. Why do you address your dog? Fuck off, right? Honest to God. It's just, I got to just push that thing away. Yeah. Don't have a few drinks to get near my phone because I just start wars, right?
Has it been freeing for you to get off the air and be able to?
I used to have to fight, Dean. Every day I had to fight. So I was just a fucking bitter person. Like I had to fight people at work. I've had some managers I've worked for and whatnot, where I'd have to fight them and then have to fight the people that were complaining about me, right? If that guy didn't back me, then he was my enemy, and I had to deal with that a lot. I've worked for some great general managers, so I'll tell you that much.
Who's the best?
Stu Myers.
Who just got let go from Bell.
Right, yeah.
And he first guy I worked for in Toronto, too. He was the first guy I worked for.
He was at the Edge, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He came up through the ranks, and was just a smart guy, just always on the even keel. The world could be blowing up, or we just won the lottery. You couldn't tell from Stu's face. And that's why I love the guy.
Who's the worst?
I can't say. I don't want to, but I could give you 2 or 3 that just never backed me. I got one guy fired. I got the program director demoted.
Is there just a real quick? I've done the same thing where I've altered someone's life who I worked for within a split second. Is there any better feeling?
Yeah, you know what? Because,
I don't think there is.
No, there isn't, because you know what? You can't do that to me. Yeah. And I could have been blown out, but I said it's him or me, and then it was me. I got to stay, but I said, like, who do you think built this place? Who do you think takes it on the chin? Of course, I get the money and shit, but if I fuck up once, I've got 13 emails coming from Toronto or Montreal or whatever, right? And you're either going to defend me or I'm going to get you, right? If you don't defend me, we're in this team together.
Right.
And then I had another one too, where we were killing it. We had a 21 share in the morning.
Yeah. I think if you weren't from Calgary or, you were it. Like I grew up in Drumheller, Three Hills, went to Calgary for university. And I would listen to you and I would listen to a guy named Rick Sadler. Do you remember Rick Sadler?
Still around, good buddy.
No idea where he is. He could have been one of the greatest pure hit the post rock jocks I've ever listened to.
Yeah, he was on AM 106.
AM 106. I was working at the Calgary Stampede, and I'll remember it. I'll never forget it. I'm 17 years old. I'm at the Calgary Stampede running the pig races for my dad's radio station in Drumheller. It's called Q91. I'm handing out ballots for the pig races. Do you remember the pig races at the Stampede?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And that was me. I did that for 2 summers. I got paid great money for a kid driving in and out of the city just to hand out ballots for the pig races. But that wasn't the point. The point was, I remember standing there and it was like this fucking unbelievably hot day and it just smelled like funnel cakes and manure. And I see this brilliant bastard walk with like 4 people around him. And he had this unbelievable hair and I don't know if it was permed. I'm not sure. And someone goes, "That's Rick Sadler." And I'm like, "That's Rick Sadler?" And he was the cock of the walk, bud. He was just doing, doing one of those. It was out of the movies. "Hey, how you doing?" Everybody's like, "All right, Rick Sadler." Like he was it. And then I would listen to you when you got there. But you were in that radio station in that time, specifically your morning show. It was it. Like there was nothing else in the city. It was like QR77 for information, or you're listening to Gerry Forbes, because if you don't, you're not listening to the radio. No one else did it like you.
What kept me on my toes is they brought every radio station. They kept bringing guys in to beat me. They kept bringing guys in from Toronto, guys in from Montreal, and I would have to get the mindset of a warrior to kill these guys. I really went too nuts. Terry DeMonte, who's the world's nicest man, I had to hate that guy, right? Because there'd be an article in the newspaper because radio was such a big deal back then that they're bringing this guy in to knock off Jerry Forbes. So I immediately had to hate the guy.
Yeah.
Then I met that guy, and he's the nicest guy in the world, right? So we became great friends. But the other guys I tried not to get too close to because I would do anything to kill them. I had to.
Yeah.
That was my job. We had one time where I had an idea. I said, you know what? We would do most of the concerts because CJ was such a big radio station. We got everything. So Kick 107 was a radio station, and they would have to battle us. So they brought a couple of guys in. And when we're doing out front of the Saddle Dome concert, these guys decided what they would do is get a marching band to come in and play all the rock songs of the person that was playing in the Saddle Dome and try and drown out our broadcast. Well, I rounded up all our listeners and hit them all behind our big boombox thing. And I gave everybody water balloons. And we did a Braveheart on them and wiped out the entire orchestra. They were fucking falling all over the place. The tuba guys in the tree. And we just completely wiped them out. They called the police. Yeah. And I said, well, it's a radio war, right? We're doing like slam dunking in the guy's tuba and breaking his fucking drumsticks in half. And that was the great days of radio where you had a battle and we would actually fight these guys.
Yeah.
At the midway, right?
But see, you have that thing that I have that now I've learned is probably not a great thing, which is, and I used to say this all the time when someone was like, what makes you do that? What makes you do the job that you do? And what makes you either successful at it or how do you do it? And my only answer to everybody was, I do not get up at fucking 3:45 in the morning to lose. I'm just not wired like that. And when you get to a point where, and I think back in 2014, we had like a 30 share, men 18 to 34 in the city. And that was mine. I felt like all that was mine. And if someone was going to try and take it, you had to fucking fight me for it because I had worked my balls off to get to that point, and I put the best of myself into that job, and I wasn't going to let it go. I was so crazy. It was to the point where I refused to take vacation for like the first 2 or 3 years because I was building something. It was, when you walked in on your dad and he's building something in the garage and you're like, hey man, come. He's like, no, I'm busy. I can't. I'm on that's how I was. And on top of that, I was also so fucking competitive that I just assumed everything was mine because I had to. I couldn't think about failure. I couldn't think about a bad break. I couldn't think about terrible interviews. I had to cut those off and move on. And I just had to make sure that everything I did went into this job that in the end, the foundation was terrible and I had to readjust and figure out my life after the fact.
Because you're going home fucking crazy, right? You're going home nuts. I worried all the time. I go, I don't want to lose this, right? And if a rating would come in and, how they figured out the ratings when they sent those ballots out, and we'd have a bad book, and I go, it's not us. I guarantee you, we're working our asses off. But I would go home and I would just be fixated on winning. I was just like you, and I would do anything it took to win, anything at all. Mm-hmm. And it drives you a little cuckoo.
Did it make you? Did it hurt the relationships in your life? Because I know it hurt mine in a good way. Because I hate marriage, so I'm happy that I'm not. But my lust for winning, to beat people, to embarrass, and I wouldn't say I want to beat guys. I wanted to say I want to beat you to the point where you get off the fucking radio. That was how I was, but that was how it was such a focus in my life that I didn't focus on anything else, and obviously it damages relationships along the way.
Me too. It did. And thank God I married a goddess. First one was a flight attendant, which is not good for a young disc jockey because she's never home. Mm-hmm. And you get into any bar you want for free and you have a tab. And are you going to stay home and watch fucking Matlock, or are you going to go out with the boys and whoop it up? So that destroyed that marriage. Mm-hmm. But when I met Shelley, it just totally changed. She could calm me down. She'd say, don't let it worry you. So I would come home and have my own little therapist and not worry about it. But the competitiveness in you and me, mm-hmm. It was all consuming, like you said, and it's not a good thing. But I think if you don't have it, you don't win.
Yeah, I don't think you do either, and I think that it was there. There's an old phrase, young, dumb, and full of cum. Ever heard that one? Oh, young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yeah,
because if you haven't been to the bottom, or if you haven't suffered a setback in this industry, you were purely ignorant to anything bad happening, right? Whether it's big paychecks going away, whether it's your relevance going away. Like all you focus on. I never thought of that shit. All I thought about was, I have to win today. Like, I'm going to go in and fucking beat the shit out of people, and then I'm going to get off the radio. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And the life that it afforded me was fantastic. I mean, it still affords me a wonderful life, right? It's changed into different things and stuff, but it is an interesting example because I literally had to go and recalibrate when I left the fan, because that was just a fucking nightmare. Every minute was a nightmare. Every person that I ran into was a pain in the ass, by and large.
Oh, you don't know sports. You're a
yeah.
Dog shit. You got all that crap, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't hired to do sport. That was the funny part. They hired me to do sports and some pop culture and to be me. And the second the guy that hired me left, a guy named Don, great guy, which was like 3 months into it, they said, just do fucking sports or you're gone. And I'm like, oh, I guess. Yeah. Don Collins. Great guy. Wonderful guy.
Yeah, it's funny, and that's just it. And everybody wants to. I equate it to being a great quarterback, a great hockey player, or a heavyweight champion. Everybody wants to knock you off the post, right? They want to knock you out. So you got to look out for the guy you're working with, because he'd love to have your job too. And everybody else who wants to kill you, right? Mm-hmm. So you're doing this the whole time. You're jabbing, and you're just trying to stay on top, right? So when you're at the top, it's hard to stay there. So you got to work your ass off, right?
Yeah, you do. And you can't, like, you don't have time for emotions or feelings. You know what I mean? And
I'm like you. I hated people. If you're going to challenge me, I'm going to get you, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I would have a list. I would keep a list of people who'd wronged me, and I had to. I literally had that list up until about 2 years ago. Yeah. Where I'm like, it's probably not good that I have this resentful list of people who want to murder.
I know, but I just felt that way. Okay, that guy's getting it. That guy's getting it. And I knock them off one at a time, right? Yeah. And oh, geez, that happened to him. Fuck, that's terrible. I'm so fucking glad, right? Terrible. Yeah. That's a horrible way to live, right? So when I got off the radio, that all went away. That was good.
Where did you talk about the anxiety, and it's something I talk about, and it's something I deal with, is mental health, because it's important to me. I think at this stage of my life, it's important that guys that have done the job that we do feel like, hey, listen, we're fucking part of the same fraternity, right? We've been down that road, and I've been amazed. I wrote a piece about a week and a half ago with the Let's Talk thing right before Bell fired everybody. It's great. And I wrote a piece about it, and it was amazing how many guys in radio got back to me.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I have an enemy. Especially the guys here in town. They're all great guys. They came on my final show. So I had a guy named Sergio the Master Baker. So I kept getting job offers. I was really lucky. So they'd come back, what do you want? And I'd parlay that into more money from Gerry and never take the job. But I'd always have a guy that I knew was just about as good as me, and I'd get him the job. They go, well, like, we negotiated with you for like 2 weeks, and we thought we had a deal. And I'm like, I was just using that to get more money from Gerry. But I said, here's the good news. This other guy, Roger Rhodes, is amazing. You should have a look at him. Well, we're not familiar with him. Well, I said, well, turn the fucking radio on. He's on in the afternoon. He's great. So Roger did great characters. He did one for me called Sergio the Master Baker. Yeah. And Sergio couldn't say the word cake. He can only say cock. So on my last show, Roger's working at Country 105 doing mornings now. I said, could you come on and do Sergio? Because you're such a big part of the show. So he came on my last show and he said, Mr. Forbes, I see that you are retiring. He used the word retard. We couldn't use that, obviously. So we said, you can't use that one. But he says, I know you are retiring. And I look around and I see all your friends, and I wanted to make a really special cock. But he said, since it's retirement, I want to make sure the cock is special. So I took a popsicle and a cock and I put it together, and I dedicated it to all your friends. I call it a cocksucker. And so that was on the last show. And
how many complaints? How many? Like, did you even get through the break before you had someone screaming at you to fucking stop?
Stu answered all the phone calls and just went. Stu, you could see him standing by the door, going, "Oh no." Then I had Tony Spolatini on, who runs a big a sausage company here in Delicatessen called Spalumbo's.
Is that the dude that you used to do hide the salami with, where he would hide? Because right. That was one of my favorite Forbes and Friends bits. Was you're okay, guys? We're playing hide the salami. We've hit a 12-pound salami somewhere in the city of Calgary. If you can get it, you're going to go and see the Dave Matthews Band, and you'd have this dude who I think he played for the Stamps, right? The dude that you're talking about.
He was the Calgary Stampeder, and then he opened a delicatessen called Spalumbo's. So he could do a great Italian accent. So he became Giuseppe, the truck driver. And he lived in Falconridge, but he could only say Falconridge. And he worked for a cement company, but he can only say semen. So he'd say, I come from a fucking ridge and I go to Suckamy Beach and I shoot the semen in this woman's box. And she's so happy, eh? She's got a perfect crack, I tell you. So he came on the last show too. So everybody that was totally just way over the line came on the last show, and Stu let me do it all.
I would have been shitting my pants if I was your boss.
Oh yeah,
I would have been shitting my fucking pants knowing the climate that we're in today.
Oh, and that last show was just magical because of course I had the two young guys, I had Jesse and JD.
Right.
And my last couple of years, I was able to do whatever I wanted to because I negotiated the last contract. Mm-hmm. Bell was going to get rid of me. And so what I did was I went downstairs to the radio station downstairs and I said, look, Bell's going to dump me. What are the chances of me coming down there and trying to kick the shit out of the station I just came from? Because I guarantee I'll get up at midnight and prepare for the show and make sure that I kill these people. Mm-hmm. Like Ian Lurie was the CEO, and he's
at Stingray now.
Yeah, he used to be at Standard. That's how we got to know each other when I was in Toronto. And he goes, what do you want? So I gave him the figure. He goes, great. Yeah, we're a little concerned about your blue humor. And I went, I understand that. But I said, I've tempered a lot of that. So I had to meet the program director. He flew out and we came to an agreement. And then I went to Rick McIver, who's a politician here, knowing he was good friends with Don Stevens. And I said, just so you know, I've got Don's job. And Don's 73, so I thought Don was probably trying to cash his chips in anyway. And I said, but don't tell him, knowing he'd run right to him and tell him, knowing that he was good friends with Stu Myers, he would run to Stu Myers. So a week later, I get, can I see you for lunch? And I go, yeah, what's going on? He goes, you tell me. I go, what? He goes, well, I heard that you're going after Don Stevens' job. And I said, no, Don's a friend of mine. I figured he was cashing in the chips. So I threw my name in the ring and they want to hire me. So my job now, is as painful as it'll be, is to try and blow up everything that I built. So I'm going to go down there and I'm going to just basically see if I can't knock CJ off the air and kill you guys. And Stu says, well, we can't have that. And I said, well, I guess we can't. So what are you going to do? Well, I got to go to Bell. I said, well, I would. And I said, here's what I want. I want 2 more years. Here's the money I want. And I want to do about 1/3 of the show. And I want to take a lot of time off, maybe 2 months holidays, maybe 3, depending on what I feel like. And then when I leave, I want 6 months of Gerry's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I want fucking billboards. I want a TV campaign thanking me for all the great shit I've done. And then I'll fuck off. And they go, sign here. And that was what I wanted to do for every radio guy in the world, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I got to call the shots on my way out. And that was fantastic.
You're one of like nobody. I mean, other than Ashby and I even know, Roger wanted to continue working and he was told no, we're good. But you might be the only guy that has authored his own exit from this industry in the last 40 years.
The crowning piece of my career. And I got to actually call the shots on the way out, and it was fantastic. I just, I'd been through so much, and I thought, you know what? I get it. I don't know. Bell doesn't owe me shit because they bought the company. But from what I built this radio station to, I think I deserve this. So I had to author my own adios.
Yeah. Oh, dude, if you don't, no one's doing it for you.
You got it.
Yeah. Gerry Forbes is our guest, legendary broadcaster for CJ92 in Calgary. He's now retired. What do you make of the Bell cut? Obviously, you worked for Bell. You're not beholden to anybody, and I'm not asking you to sue. I haven't sued them. I get the business. A, what do you make of those cuts to Bell? And B, what do you make of the industry today? Like, what do you make of radio in as much as it's a viable business for people to go, yeah, I'd like to fucking go and train and get into that industry.
Don't. I mean, I used to take the SAIT class out all the time to the last day of school. Rather than going and give them a lecture, I take them to the bar and I got them all hammered. So I took them over to local news and I picked up the tab. And I brought in other broadcasters. I bring in people from other radio stations that were like way younger than me, that they had 10 years in the business. Mark Michaels, Mad Dog's brother, and a bunch of other guys. And I bring them in and just let the students pick their brains. So I didn't want to say one way or the other, but I said, here's where the industry's going. It's changing a lot. When I saw the Bell stuff, I just, that's what happens when a telephone company or a cable company runs radio stations. They don't give a shit. And the problem is what you and I are doing now, this is way more compelling than anything you can do on the radio. Mm-hmm. And that's the bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. This has just, I mean, just technology has pretty much given it a big old kick in the balls, right? You can track your stuff better on the internet. You can track your consumer. You can target people better on Google, on Facebook and whatnot. And it's a lot less money than traditional radio or TV. So it's really dealt it a punch in the head, and we'll see where it goes. I still think radio survives if it's local. And you and I have built our careers too on philanthropy. I made sure that I started the Gerry Forbes Kids Fund, paying for kids' funerals, making sure that kids that were raped went to the right place to get their help, having the police and the fire department call me before they called the Red Cross, because they knew I could get money in the next couple of days to the family. That's what radio does great. The local part of it does that great. When you start voice tracking some guy out of Toronto that doesn't know anything about Calgary, or dropping in a morning show from Seattle, which is the new thing, this Bobby and Jeffrey, or who the fuck they are.
I've never heard of that. Where is that, in Calgary?
It's in Vancouver. Now they have Willie from Vancouver doing the morning show on Q107 here. Which just in a market of like 1,600,000 people.
Well, they have a guy from Vancouver piping in a morning show in Calgary?
Willie Percy, yeah. So he's the morning show, and with just can be like Bobby and Sally, or it's always, you're out the door and they just use your first name, right? Or if you become the Breakfast Club. And see you later.
Yeah, if you got like a generic name
You decided to change the name of the show to the Breakfast Club. Well, that fucking club's closing in about a week.
Yeah, I always knew there was trouble when and I was fortunate, right? Like I was at a place for a really long time. I had a cup of coffee at a shithole when I was done. And that cured me of my, interest or my yearning to be on the air, or that cured me of my inability to really let go of the industry that I love, very, very fucking much. Like if you've been successful in radio ever, it is a great life. It is a fucking unbelievable life.
Anywhere I go, still Gerry Forbes, like the radio guy.
Yeah,
I am the radio guy, right?
Yeah. Do you use it sometimes just to get in line? Do you use it sometimes to get a better table? Oh yeah, for sure. Everybody does.
You know what? But I hope things continue for the guys I know that are in it. Super talented guys. The two guys I worked with, Jesse Mods and Jetty Lewis, both super kids, super smart,
talented guys.
And they deserve better. They deserve to be, they deserve a long run. And I hopefully radio doesn't take one guy out. They're just trying to cheap out on everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's syndication isn't a great word for it. I know a lot of different people that do radio, including where I used to work, that are on the radio in one market and another market, but that's just simulcasting. And a lot of those guys now get paid. Like I know Chorus pays people to do two shows. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we'll pay you to do this show, but we'll give you $25
to do the next one.
Do the next one on this station in this city, and then $50 to do one. And these are jobs like you're paying a fucking human being, and keep this in mind, human being, $25 to affect change for you somewhere, to be excellent for you. So I've been paid a lot of money. You've been paid a lot of money. If someone said to me, here's $25 to do a radio show, I would go, okay, I'm going to give you $25 worth. because that's all.
Yeah.
And therefore, the quality of the programming is toast. And I see that and hear it everywhere. There was a time when you were on the radio where you would talk about the things that happen in your community, you would affect that community, and that's gone. That's gone because they can't afford it.
Totally. And like you said, when you bring a person in from Vancouver and put them in a Calgary market, they know nothing about what's going on in Calgary. Right. They're not going to know anything about how people are crushed because of the oil crisis, because of no money from Ottawa. They're not going to know what an empty downtown looks like. They're not going to be able to help anybody from Vancouver. And that's the future, unfortunately. That's the way it seems to be going now. And it's nothing worse than two old radio guys going, well, fuck the business. But it's just a situation that it needs to be fixed, right? And the CRTC let it get away. They let the whole thing get away. You can now fax the CRTC, I think, if you want, to tell them your thoughts on the state of radio and TV. But it went back to social media again. One of the ladies who used to work on the air here at QR, she finally got so fed up with people calling her, see you next Tuesday, on emails and texts and Facebook, and that she just quit. She said, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore. So she packed it in 2 weeks ago.
Recently?
Yeah, Danielle Smith. She used to be the leader of the opposition of the Wild
Rose Party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But no,
there was something out here like that too. There was a young lady who worked at 640 who packed it in because she couldn't handle what was coming back from people. She couldn't handle the email. She couldn't handle the text. She couldn't handle the text line that was in front of her all the time. She couldn't handle direct messages and tweets from people saying you got your information wrong. And it's funny because I think radio people have been conditioned for feedback, right? Like the how we knew we were successful were numbers, right?
Right.
And input that you would get back from people when you would put them on the radio, whether you had them on the radio from a phone call, or if you had them in studio, you knew it was good because people were having fun. Now people are so fucking trained to look at their phones every time they do something. They finish a break. They finish a break. They look at their phone and they're like,
"I'm good, right?"
Yeah, I'm good. I'm here to do this job. And unfortunately, it's created this. Why I asked about anxiety, or stress, or when we grew up, worry. It wasn't called anxiety. Oh, just stop worrying, right? You're going to have a job tomorrow. But, on top of that anxiety now that people in radio have to deal with, and I fucking feel sorry for them. They have to deal with the ratings. Then they got to deal with, this constant bombardment of assholes who have a problem with anything they say or do. You have to be a fucking unbelievably special person to be able to be a radio person today for 4 hours at a time, to get all that feedback and be able to craft that into a show without having a nervous breakdown.
And unfortunately, you know what it does? Is it basically gives you a fucking jar of mayonnaise. Rather than the spicy hot sauce where you want to fucking stir some shit up. Yeah. Now you're just like, what a wonderful day. You know what? Maybe I'll go out to the mountains with my dog and, enjoy. And that's what you get, because there's still going to be some idiot that goes, like, I hate fucking dogs. Do you pick up your shit? There's going to be somebody who finds out something wrong with that. Yeah. So it makes it so tough on radio people. I don't know how they do it now. No. Me, even till the end, I was telling people to fuck off. I didn't care, right? You're still going to pay me if you blow me out.
Do you regret anything? Are there like, when you look back, because I know I look back on some of the things I said to people, maybe some of the tacks that I took into different positions that I had, and I look back and go, fuck, I wish I could have educated myself a little bit more before I opened my mouth in these circumstances, or I wish I didn't hurt that person's feelings.
No. No, from trying to fucking jab just to block people trying to hit you in the head. Fuck them. I don't care.
Yeah.
I did what I wanted to do. If you didn't like it, you could just, don't turn the radio on, go somewhere else. You think I'm an asshole? That's fine. Maybe you think so. I don't think so. Talk to the kids I helped. Talk to the people who helped me set up the CJ Kids Fund. I'm okay with it, right? Yeah. Not everybody's going to like you. That's another thing too. You have to learn that you can't make everybody like you. There's going to be people who hate you, and there's, look at poor Tom Brady. I'm sorry, I'm fucking excellent, right?
Yeah.
That guy, fucking Tom Brady. Well, he can't even go bowling because he's got fucking rings on his fingers. Think about the bad things he's got to deal with, right?
No apologies.
No,
but and it's funny because I think if anybody has had if anybody's done that job, and if you know what we're talking about when it comes to input that you get from people and what you're trying to protect, which are big paychecks, which is a great lifestyle, all the things that I never thought I had. When I started in radio, it was in Fort McMurray. I was making like $1,700 a month, and
I know.
And then I get a job, and someone goes, "We'll give you $50,000 a year," and you're like, "Wow, I'm in." So I go to Windsor, and and then someone says, "We'll give you a couple $100,000 a year," and this is, I'm like, "Wow, a couple $100,000 a year," and then because you're successful, or because you're wily like yourself, you get paid more and more and more and more and more and more, because that radio station does not want to live in the Netherlands of fucking nobody listens to us, right? So they'll just keep paying you and paying you and paying you. And I wonder if obviously you outlived that, but I wonder if at some point that is, if it was for me, if I should have just fucking unplugged and said, forget this, if I would be a different person today. But then, you look back on the things that you did, and someone asked me the other day, I get opportunities to go on the radio all the time. And I've said this to every single person, whether it's someone from Rogers or Bell or Chorus. I'm not interested in it. No. I'm not interested in the business anymore. I'm interested in that being but I'm interested in that being part of what I do. If I can do this first, and if you want to take this and then you want to put it over there, that's fine. Right. And then you can manage all the language, and you can take care of the business that you need to take care of. But I won't do it. I will not go back on the radio just to do a radio show for.
I think if you had to follow a plan, you look at Howard, right? Howard Glassman.
Yeah.
And he's done a good job, as you have with the podcast. And if they want to take that, and they eventually will, they took those guys. But this is what you got, and I'm not changing it. So you guys deal with it. I'll be a contractor, and you can put me on your television station or on your radio station. But I'm not changing what I'm doing, because this is good stuff. This is compelling. This is shit you can't get on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember one of the funniest ones we did, and people crucified us, but it was hilarious. On April Fool's Day, I thought I'm gonna stir it up. We haven't stirred it up for a while, so we fucking tattooed a baby. We didn't really do it, but it sounded like we did it. We had one of our girls come in from our creative department as the mom, and she said, we were at a Metallica concert, and we got a little hot and heavy, so we banged, and we had a child out of it. So. That's where the child was conceived. So we want to put a pentagram on his ass. And I said, well, I'll get that done for you. I'll bring it.
Not a dolphin, but how about a fucking pentagram?
Yeah. So I said, well, and I'll see what the guys from Metallica, I'll make sure they know about this. And so we have this fucking kid just screaming, right? Yeah. And the mom's like, oh, he likes it, and people are losing their mind. The police called, child services showed up at the radio station. Fucking motorcycle guys going, Forbes, I listen to you all the time. Fuck, you gone too far this time. You can't tattoo the fucking baby. And we're like, oh, he's fine. Damien's fine. We had fucking game like the devil's name, the whole fucking works. And shit like that. And that's the shit that you couldn't do now. They'd kill you, right?
We used to have it was called Staple Gun Spelling Bee. And our producer's name was Meat, great kid. Meat could not spell to save his life. All throughout high school, he was given this little kind of supercomputer to help him spell. Like he was just a technically abhorrent fucking speller. No, right. Like it just wasn't one of his gifts, nor was math or writing or reading. But we would get him to spell things. No, and we would get him to spell things, but we would put him up against other people. So it was, we'd have a Todd per se. Okay, Todd spell cat, C-A-T, great. Meat spell vacuum, and he's like, fuck. And within 2 letters, he had a staple in the leg, and we went.
Oh, you had to staple him?
Oh yeah, we would staple his leg, and you can't do that anymore. We had a fart tube where our producer would fart in this tube, put the top on it, and then we'd make him smell it on the air just to see his reaction. And you can't do that anymore. But back in the day, the jack up that I got, the excitement that I got from, like, I'm listening to your story, telling me about how hell's breaking loose, the cops are showing up, you're tattooing a baby. That was theater of the mind. Oh. Like that is all we got paid to do, was create theater of the mind. It wasn't, and the overreaction that came when it came, tell me you weren't super fucking pumped. Like, as all this is going on, are you not going, this is the greatest radio bit ever?
Oh yeah. You've got the manager fucking wait to jump out the fucking window. You've got the sales department going, how are we going to sell this place? I'm going, this is the fucking best, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's at the reception desk are going, you have to stop, right? I'm like, no, we're going, right?
Right.
It was great. It was absolutely the first one I did when I got here. I was here for I'm not sure if you're still here then, but I was just on the air maybe 2 months, and Bob Harris was my program director. I liked that guy. At the time, we used to fight all the time. I'd walk in and clear his desk, and we'd get into some amazing fights. But I decided that the Eagles were coming to town, so they were going to play on April Fool's Day. So I went out and I called an Eagle Jeep dealership to find out if they had a guy named Glenn and a guy named Don. And so I said that the Eagles were going to come and perform in our parking lot. Come on up and meet them, come get some autographs and all that sort of stuff. Tony from Spolumbos is going to be barbecuing. We're raising $5,000 for the food bank. Bring any food you got or just bring cash. And then, so I expected maybe like 100.
I remember this.
Yeah.
This was a big story back then because people showed up and they were fucking furious because 2 car salesmen were there with a Jeep Cherokee.
And the cars came up and I said, the entourage is coming and everybody's excited. They've all taken the day off work. They've got their albums, their CDs. And these cheap Eagles come in honking their horns with the lights flashing. And I go, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Eagles. And then the Eagles stopped the concert. So I go to the concert. I'm in the Sunbox. And they do a couple songs. And then Don Henley goes, there's some people that take the Eagles name and use it for wrong things. This time it was selling cars. And there's an asshole here in town by the name, I'm going, please just say it, Gerry Forbes. And I'm like, okay, everybody's going to know who the fuck I am now. And this guy's gone too far and we're going to sue him. And we're going to sue him. People are like, half the crowd, laughing. The other half booing me. I'm going, well, fuck, name's on the map now, right? So anyway, he ended up suing us. And Bob came in, he goes, you cannot mention Don Henley's name. Do not mention the Eagles. Do not do anything. So Bob leaves the control room. And I go, just so you know about Don Henley. I said, because I read a book on this. That guy is such an asshole that he has women stand on glass coffee tables and have a shit and he whacks off. So I'm telling that story, right? And he comes in, he goes, you're so fucking fired. So I call Gary Slate and I go, here's what I just did. And he goes like, what did you get? I go, we got front page of the paper. We got front page of both papers. We got television. People either love me or think I'm an asshole, but they know I'm here. He goes, Gerry, fantastic. Bob, calm down. And then, so, I mean, I can't imagine working with me, right? Because that was just a fucking awful thing to do. But you know what, Stu? The right thing to do.
Of course it was. And Stu Myers would say that. And it was something, for all the things that I learned from people along the way, Stu had a really big impact in a short period of time.
Yeah.
He said, guys like you are the hardest, and you and me. He said this to me. So he's like, guys like you, and he mentioned your name, which I was already stoked because I just got to Toronto and he's like, oh, fuck, you guy compared me to Gerry Forbes. That's the best. He said, you guys are the most high maintenance, but everybody listens to you, right? Everybody listens to stuff like that because they don't know if it's real. And if you had that ability, and I said this when we first started, you had the ability to create this theater of the mind, but it was always this fucking incredible gift. You made shit fun, everything fun. You made hard subjects fun. You made pranks like that fun. And if you listened to you, as I did when you were younger, if you listened to you at all, you knew that that's what that gig was, right? It was this guy is trying to make everybody's morning a little bit better. That's all he's trying to do.
Remember the magic when you first walked into a radio station? I was like 7 when I walked into Chad in Edmonton and saw what the guys were doing. I'm going like, this is a job. And I went, that's a job. I knew when I was 7 years old what I wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. And did it. And I got to hear that complaint that you had. What was it on me?
I'll get it up for you right now. It's fucking hilarious. I was reading it today, and it was, and you can tell by the kind of person that you are, just from having listened to you and followed your career, that there was a conversation in there that someone had with you at some point,
right?
It was about the Asian rub and tugs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
it was about the Asian rub and tugs, and it was so fucking funny. I was sitting there listening to it, and I was uncomfortable at the same time too, because I'm like, fuck, could you imagine saying that now? Could you imagine and you won the decision. Like you know, they went on this here. I'll get it for you. It's really easy. You just type in Gerry Forbes CBSC.
That guy came at me like 8 times.
Yeah.
He just didn't give up. Once I won one, he was right back for round 2.
Oh, so it was a song that you played November 5th and 6th, November 5th and 6th. So it happened twice.
Yeah.
Episodes of the morning show on Forbes and Friends, CJ92 in Calgary, parried the current news reports. On the first broadcast in question, the host brief comments with the report that the dog and the coyote remains were found in a freezer near an Edmonton Chinese food restaurant.
Oh, yeah. We were making up the menu.
Yeah.
The names for it.
On the broadcast there, the next day, the host presented a news story of a police raid at a Calgary massage parlor believed to have been operating as a common body house.
Yeah.
There was a song you played. Now I'm going to read the lyrics to the song. It's a parody song that you played.
Okay.
Again, Gerry was the master of parody songs and commercials. The master. I remember you had one. It was songs of the 70s that really sucked. Volume 1 and 2. Anyway, this was the song. She's a Singapore whore. She's a singing Singapore whore. Figure out the words from her mouth. It's quite a frigging chore. Pay her $1. She won't be a bore. She's a Singapore whore. I won't say those ones. Announcer. That was the song. So this is announcer. Tonight on Singapore whore. Woman. That's me. Hi. Do you want to make love to me in my ash?
Put your penis in my ass.
So anyway, there's the song, and then it says Gerry. It goes to Gerry. Hi there. That's you, Gerry. Tonight on Singapore whore. Gerry. Hey, if you don't, woman. He's so bashful. Gerry. If you don't patronize these places, stuff doesn't happen, man. And then it goes to the morning crew again, dealt with the prostitution ring story on the following day. So now you're into the third day of doing stuff you shouldn't be doing here, Gerry.
Serious journalism. You have to follow up.
Gerry, and I love this. You start with a time check. 7:16 now with Forbes and Friends, and this sex slave thing. Jody, oh hum. Gerry, whistles, pretty sad stuff. So you're admonishing it here. Like I get it. Yeah. Gerry, it's amazing how many rub and tugs we have in town. Wixie, we do have a few. Jody, I didn't know. Gerry, now these are Thai people doing it to Thai people. Yeah. Wixie, yeah. Gerry. They're bringing Thai agents who are sending people here to be sex slaves. So it's really no better than what they have over in Thailand / Bangkok. Wixie, that's true. Jody, well, once they pay off their initial fee to get here. Wixie, 40 grand. Host, isn't that brutal? Jody, I think they're allowed to be. Gerry, how many rub and tugs do you...
And they're going to read this.
This is it. This is Gerry. How many rub and tugs do you have to do for 40 grand? You wanted to know. This is great. You're like, I'd like to know how the math works.
Of it. Yeah. Sorry, so much fun.
In the actual, and then it's there's some other stuff in here. It's like, you said, stay out of these places. That's what you said. You're like, fuck, stay out of these places. They're dirty, filthy, yuck. Wixie says, no kidding. Jody then says, imagine who's been there before you. Isn't that lovely? Gerry then says, oh boy, that's a lot of juice. Anyway, 7:18.
Got to get the time check in.
And then it goes on, like, imagine this. So someone complains about that. Everybody can imagine that. But the CBSC ruled in your favor. They said,
that's great. I'm telling people, stay out of there.
Yeah.
You're promoting slavery, for Christ's sake.
Yes.
In a roundabout way. That's what
now that's the difference now. If in a microcosm, if you wanted to find out the difference between radio then and now, the difference between then and now is that you could actually purport that you were saying, hey, listen, I'm telling people to stay out, which you were, right? Yeah. But you could also have some fun and make fun of the whole situation, which you can't now if anybody involved isn't either A, white, or B, white.
Right. Or I mean, you think that's funny, girls are dying. And we know human trafficking is not funny, but fuck, that's stay out of them. Then that won't happen, right?
Yeah.
Don't go bang 14-year-old girls, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, it was a great read. I read that this morning, and then it led me to read some of mine, which I'm like, probably shouldn't read those in this podcast.
The memories, eh?
What's it like now? Getting up, going about your day. Like, take me through your retired Gerry Forbes day.
For the first little while there, it was tough because I kept getting up. And then I learned just to sleep in because I got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So we're lucky. I've been very lucky. I made a lot of money doing radio, so I don't have to work. And I'm helping guys with podcasts. Like we're starting a new one now, trying to help people in Calgary whose businesses have gotten, shuttered because of the COVID. And we're going to try and see if we can raise money for them and stuff like that. So I'm just getting into that.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly I've been doing just supporting my wife. She's got a great job in oil and gas. So I do all the shit that a housewife would do. I do the shopping. I do all that kind of crap. We get a place in Canmore.
Mm-hmm.
So we go out there, especially during the COVID shit, and try and spend as much time as we can in the mountains. And we got a place in Arizona. Can't go there now. But we managed to make it down before Christmas and had a great time down there. I just sort of hang around the house. I got a pool in the back. It's nice this summer. And I do all the lawn shit. We got like 3/4 of an acre, so it's a lot to look after.
Oh, you turned into an old dude. Like you literally turned into I'm fucking enjoying mowing my lawn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no hassles. There's no worries. I get a lot. I own a restaurant. I own a restaurant with a couple other
Bookers.
guys. So
Bookers,
yeah.
is it called Bookers?
Yeah, it's Bookers. Yeah, I try and get that name out there about 100 times during the old radio career.
Attaboy.
And I have a lot of friends who like this. This is a pub buddy of mine. We hook up quite often. They all do quite well, and we spend a lot of time together and have fun. But it's just a stress-free life. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Are you happy to be where you're at now? Like, can you look back and go, "Fuck yeah, this is." I worked hard. I did my best. And I'm okay.
You and I can still cry about the stories of the shit we've done.
Yeah.
That's happiness, right? Sit back and go, we did that shit, Unbelievable. I mean, people are going, you didn't. I did. And we did that shit. And it was funny as hell. And it was a great gift to radio. We did a great job.
Yeah, you did. And we did. And I think that, it's fun talking to other cats that have gone through the, people say it's a grind. It is a fucking mental grind. It's great talking to people that had that same kind of instinct or that same feeling that if you didn't get up there and if you didn't do that job, you were doing nothing else. Like it was it. I have no transferable skills. It's always great to talk to other people whose only ability was to enjoy their life and try and make a difference and do that job to the best of their ability. Because I will maintain this till I die. It is the hardest job. Being a morning guy, an effective morning person, is the hardest job in the world. It's got to be.
I don't think people know the stress that goes along with it.
Yeah,
it's constant. You're rated every day. Like think when you're an airplane pilot, you get tested once a year. You get tested every day. Mm-hmm. You get marked every day. You have a test every fucking day. You have an exam, and if you don't pull it off, you don't get the cash. Once you reach the level, you have to stay there. And then keep in mind too, they're bringing in like fucking 6 other radio stations during my tenure and bringing in all different formats that are going to try and take you out. And you still got to maintain what you did. So it was like being a heavyweight boxer, you couldn't be the guy that after you won your first fight, go get drunk and not train, right? Because you always had to be on your game.
You're one of the best to ever do it. And I've never ever said that I've idolized anybody or I've never really had like a mentor. A lot of people would say I grew up loving Stern and stuff like that. And I never talked about the people that influenced me and my decision to do this job or how I did this job. But you were it, and I want to thank you for putting the best of yourself on the radio at a time when no one else was doing what you were doing, because it gave guys like me the ability to dream and create in the life that I have today. And you're right. I get that from lots of people. It was funny because the guy who replaced you, who you worked with, Jesse Maud, sent me a nice note the other day. And he said something similar to me too. And you don't recognize in the moment that what you could be doing could be affecting so many people. But, having that megaphone in that time and doing it like you did better than most, maybe better than anybody, is something you should be really fucking proud of when you have a beer and you sit in your hot tub this afternoon, or maybe in an hour or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was just a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate you doing it. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to get together and have a beer with you sometime.
Yeah, anytime. I'm in Toronto.
Yeah.
I'll come to Calgary at some point, I imagine.
And if I come to Toronto, because that's where I'm from, I'll come back. I'll look you up for sure.
I'd love that. Let's stay in touch. We have each other's information. But Gerry, listen, this has been 3 years I've been asking you to do this, and I've fucked it up at every step of the way. So I just appreciate you making some time for me today, and thank you very much. It's been one of those professional life things I got a chance to do today. So thanks, bud.
Thanks so much, my man.
Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
You
Gerry
bet.
Forbes, ladies and gentlemen, from Forbes and Friends, legendary broadcaster. And the insight that you get from talking to someone like him makes a lot of people like me feel a little bit better about ourselves. So follow him on Twitter too. It's Flapjack92 on Twitter. He's a great follow. Lots of pictures of Bentley and your lovely wife and pints. It's
drinks.
If you want to see what retirement looks like, go to Flapjack92 on Twitter. Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Dean.
All
Take
right.
care, pal.
Take care. Gerry Forbes, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening to the podcast. We'll catch you next time, which is probably tomorrow. We'll talk a lot about weed. Until then, we'll see you soon.